Good evening. As soon as we have the mayor or deputy mayor, like Kismet. This meeting of your Pontiac City Council is hereby called to order at 6:05 p.m. We give the floor to Councilman Parker for this evening's invocation.
Thank you, Brother President. Let us pray. And God, we come yet again this day giving you thanks. We thank you for your presence in our lives. We thank you for your guidance and your shield of protection. We ask now, Lord God, in the name of your Son, Jesus, that you would bless the activities of our hands and our heart today, that you would guide and direct us in the way that you would have us to go, Lord God, that you would close up the lion's mouth and you would keep us on the same page in love and unity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and thank God.
Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We join now as a community to have a moment of silence to those we've recently said goodbye to as a community. Please join us for a community moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Present.
Goodman, James. Here. McGinnis,
Present.
Nicholson, Parker,
Here.
Rutherford.
Present.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Quorum being established, and Councilman Goodman is present but not in the chambers right now. Is there a motion to excuse Councilman Nicholson from this evening's meeting for personal reasons? Is there a second?
Support.
Moved by Councilman Rutherford, seconded by Pro Tem Carrington. Any discussion on the motion before us? Hearing none, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries, and the councilman is therefore excused for personal reasons. Is there a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Parker to approve this evening's agenda. Could I please have a motion to amend the agenda by removing number 11, what had been proposed as a closed session?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Rutherford, seconded by Council Pro Tem Carrington, that we remove the current number 11, resolution to proceed in a closed session. Any discussion on that proposed amendment? Hearing none, roll call, Clerk Doyle, on the amendment removing that resolution.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The amendment is adopted. We're back to the main motion. Approval of the agenda is amended. Is there any other discussion, amendments, corrections? Hearing none, speakers is exhausted. Roll call, Clerk Doyle, on adoption of the agenda as amended.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The agenda has been approved. Is there a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda? Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Rutherford, second by Councilman Parker, to approve the consent agenda, which has the January 16th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
All right. That motion carries. The consent agenda and those meeting minutes are hereby approved. Before we get into subcommittee reports, I just want to say welcome to the City Council meeting. It's a bit unusual weather day, and so we were closely monitoring City Hall, and the senior centers were closed today. But as the afternoon went on and it was clear that roads were safely passable, we thought it was prudent to continue with this meeting because our city charter says we must hold a meeting every week. So if we had to cancel this due to weather, then we'd have had to scramble and carve out some time in everyone's busy schedules when the weather could be terrible that day too. So I'm sorry that we had to contend with that, and I hope everyone was able to be here safely. And if you weren't able to, I hope you're able to watch remotely. So luckily, we have that feature and that option. So with that, we want to get you home swiftly and safely. So let's keep going with the agenda. We're at subcommittee reports. The Communications, Engagements, and Operations Subcommittee Chair is not present. So we'll go now to Economic Development, Housing, and Planning. I'm Mike McGinnis. I'll report on that. That subcommittee met on the second Monday in January. And I want to say that was January 10th, but I don't want to be wrong. But so that meeting took place. Those minutes have been filed and passed in the City Council previous meeting. So you're able to access what was discussed at that meeting. And the next subcommittee is the first Monday in February. So that's a few weeks away, that first Monday in February at 9 a.m. here in the City Council Legislative Conference Room. I'll point out that the first Planning Commission meeting, or the next Planning Commission meeting, is Wednesday, February 7th at 6:00 p.m. here in this room in these chambers, and there are 3 public hearings scheduled. The first public hearing is regarding a manufacturing facility at 1420 North Telegraph Road in Councilwoman James's District 4. It's where there used to be train tracks, old train tracks across the street from Hawthorne Park, a custom steel fabrication operation. They have an LLC name, but I think it's something like Troy Stamping, that they had been in Troy, then Warren, Madison Heights, and now they have a facility in Pontiac. It's already zoned correctly, but because of the nature of what it would do, it requires a special exception. So that special exception permit requires a public hearing. So that's taking place on that first Wednesday in February. The second is regarding contour windows near Galloway Lake, off of Pontiac Road, I presume, based on when I was looking at the map. Oh,
It's just right there on Perry Street.
Perry Street, that's right, it did
Down
say.
the street from Galloway Park.
Thank you. And there was an informational meeting already held about that, so some community members might already be apprised. But that will also have a public hearing because that property owner, that applicant, is seeking a rezoning that would go from R1 single family to C3 commercial use. So if you want to find out more information about that or offer feedback, that is an opportunity at the next Planning Commission meeting. And then also the planning team is bringing back a proposal for a residential infill overlay district with a larger minimum square foot and different boundaries for those proposed areas. So that also will be a public hearing. There will be more that's on the agenda, but those are the 3 that require a public hearing, and wanted to get that on your radar. And we'll keep making sure that information gets out to the council and the community as a whole. All right, so for the sake of time, communications, engagement, and operation, any subcommittee updates you'd like to give? And you're looking very sharp this evening.
Thank you. So the committee has not met yet for the month of February. It will be meeting this Thursday. We'll look to possibly have some updates next week.
Is that 2 p.m.?
Yes, it'll be 2 p.m. in the council conference room this Thursday.
Okay. All right, facilities and property, Councilman Rutherford.
Good evening. We will be having our meeting on January the 27th. The point of entrance will be the list of properties. The administration had stated some months ago that they had a list of properties, including currently city-owned facilities and buildings, such as parcels, land, and when that will be provided to the city council. Another thing we're going to be doing is going to be the facilities and assessment condition, which is being undertaken by the council. We're going to be asking about public works yard, what is going to happen, what are we doing, what is our next steps, the timeline of when there will be a shovel in the ground for the youth and recreation, the senior citizens improvements and how the contractors are progressing with the improvements by the council, what is the status of Peterson, the senior center, the Bowen Center, the cemeteries as well will be on our next agenda. The status, and also we'll be asking about the 500 West Huron, what's the status of the single-story buildings, University Drive facility, what's the status of that because we actually own it. City Hall, what's the status of the parking lot resurfacing and the staffing capacity, because we've had several questions about that, and the events out on city properties, how to make sure that they're handled in decency and in order. Our meeting will be January the 27th from 3 p.m. and it'll be right in that lounge, and that is my report.
Is it Friday, January 26th?
It's 27, I'm sorry. I'm
'Cause
thinking
your
about-
District 1 is
District 1 meeting is 27.
Gotcha.
Facilities and properties will be 26 at 3 PM. Thank you.
Very good. The Finance and Personnel Subcommittee Chair is not here presently. They meet the second Thursday of every month at 2 PM? 2 PM in the council conference room, second Thursday of every month. Law in the Courts, Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Brother President. The law and courts, did not meet in December, but we did meet yesterday, and we discussed the following items. Most of the meeting was consumed by the law and the courts, the 50th District Courts report. They have hired Raul Hernandez, I believe, to work over there. They says he's doing a good job. In the process of hiring him, they have lost 2 clerks, one who moved for a better job and one who left for better opportunities, but which still leaves about 10 positions open, most of those in the clerk area. They have been using Indeed as a resume search, and they are getting resumes. It's just the quality of the resumes has been somewhat watered down, and they're trying to go through that. We briefly addressed how Clean Slate has created a tremendous workload for them, and they are definitely low on criminal court clerks, and they're looking to fill those positions. So if anybody in the House knows some people who may be able to fill this position, go to the city website as well as to the court's website and apply. And we talked briefly about how the surrounding areas and for those positions are able to pay more, and how the funding process allows them to be able to do that, which is problematic for the Pontiac region because they don't collect funding the same way as the surrounding areas collect funding. We did briefly put on the table regarding a possible expungement fair. Need to go back and research and make sure that it is not one already being planned. And the 50th Court is also working on that budget for next year. So that's taking up some of their time. They're still having issues with their filing room, and it still needs to be cleaned up. Might even be some possible safety issues there with how the room is at the current level because of Clean Slate and them having to go back through records and dig back through some stuff that in boxes and stuff just scattered in there. They need to make sure that they usually have to take 2 people with them when they go now because of how the boxes are stacked and filed, that it might pose a safety hazard. They did request that we take a look at their need for a new water fountain. Still have not resolved the issues with their HVAC system. And I know there's an ongoing study being conducted by the administration, and the study will looking to get complete and looking for some intermediate resolutions, because when we last talked about this, we talked about the difference in the price 2 years ago and the cost of the repair now, which is well over $1 million more than it used to be, well over $1 million than what it used to be. So that's still being discussed. We did have a short report from Judith Cox and the mental health issues that we talk about, the homelessness and mental health issues. We did make sure that she was aware, however, that her input needs to move to the Public Safety and Health Subcommittee, who's chaired by our dear President Pro Tem. We talked a little bit more about the administrative issues. There was really no change. We did discuss, I believe, making sure that the administrative priorities and the council priorities are somewhat in line. We did talk about some ordinances that was being booked, and then we dismissed with the idea that we would meet, instead of monthly, we would meet bi-monthly. And our next meeting is March 25th, 4 p.m. in the council chamber, the council legislative area, or the council conference room. And our meeting was over at 4:36 p.m.
Very good. Thank you. Parks, Recreation, and Public Works, Councilwoman Kathleen James.
Yes, Parks and Recreation.
Microphone.
Thank you. Our meeting took place on Monday, actually yesterday, so I haven't had the opportunity to really organize the notes, but I'm just kind of go through the key things that we did talk about. We got a report from, we introduced our new parks manager or director, Terrence Price. He was present at the meeting, and we welcomed him to the subcommittee. We had a special presentation from Manager Mark Yandrick on some planning changes that are being made for major events and vendors, and I believe we'll be looking at some of that on tonight. Grants and Philanthropy report, we talked about that the CDBG funds are on schedule and on target, that as of July the 1st of this year, the city of Pontiac will once again be in control of their own CDBG funds. So this is a tremendous, tremendous accomplishment for our city and for Manager or Director Borngesser and her staff, and so we are really looking forward to being able to celebrate that. Also, in terms of the 10 mini and neighborhood parks, the LAP contract has been processed through purchasing. They are now actively at work, and we can expect to see the first of the engagement sessions being organized and scheduled so that our residents will have the opportunity to contribute to their ideas to what needs to happen in these parks. The park manager update, our director said that he had asked the park manager to provide some kind of a schedule of for the parks by park. So he is looking to get some kind of a report on what parks are being worked on and when. We still are working on trying to get a temporary scorecard or scoreboard for Bodette Park. As you know, that park, the softball field has been resurfaced and reconditioned and is ready for professional or amateur games. But there is no scoreboard out there. The one that's there is totally unusable, and this has been a request that's come from the community, and we are looking at possibly trying to get some kind of a rental in there, but that has not been determined. It is being looked into. Recreation manager update, Recreation Department is actively putting together the program for spring and summer. The Recreation Center update is that on January 29th and 30th, there's a committee that will be reviewing the various proposals that have come in from the design companies. So hopefully within 24 hours or 48 hours of those meetings happening, we will have made a decision on who that design company will be, and we will be able to move forward with that. Public Works, the Gulf and Bagley Road project are the main projects that are coming up. January 30th, I believe, those are scheduled to be before council. Those are projects that involve the city and WRC and the city and HRC. So both of those projects are on schedule, and they will be done in this coming spring and summer. Let's see. I think we talked a little bit about DPW's, the DPW department. They said that they currently, out of 8 trucks, there are 4 that are actively in service, and they are definitely struggling with being able to keep the trucks on the road. But even despite that they have been able to maintain the schedule and the objectives that we had set for the city to get the work done within a 24-hour time frame. So they are working, the trucks are out, and they are working very hard to be able to maintain the expectation that we have. The meeting ended at, we started at noon, and the meeting ended at 1:55. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety, Health, and Wellness, Council Pro Tem Carrington.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. My name is Councilman Carrington. The Public Safety and Health and Wellness Subcommittee met December the 14th at 4:30 in the council chambers. There was upgrades concerning the sheriff's substation facility, and it'd be 2 upgrades to the facility that are in progress currently. One, the renovations will be tinting of the windows on one wall, causing the computers to receive heating and glare from the window light. All interview rooms will be updated for a better area to interview people. Oakland County Sheriff Thurkill also gave status updates providing the crime stats for October and November. The city had 299 assaults reported during the winter months of last year. We had updates from Chief Matthew Kofi about the many fires we had in the months of November. The fire department received 373 fire calls in the city of Pontiac. And that was just calls, not saying that these was all fires. Star EMS also gave reports from Tom Robinson and Charles Users gave an update on the resident who contacted 911 and the amount of time it took the EMS to arrive to the home in the hospital, totaling 8 minutes before arriving from the initial call that was placed. We also had updates from Officer H. Ware. And the local police were asked their thoughts on possible implementation in the near future by adding a green light for local businesses throughout the city of Pontiac in order to help monitor and keep businesses and residents safe. We had no public comment. Our next meeting is February 8th, 4:30 p.m. in the council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. That concludes subcommittee reports. We're now at recognition of elected officials. Opportunity for those that are serving the community in various roles to give an update. And a very positive news for one of the City of Pontiac's elected precinct delegates that was presented a certificate of appreciation by Michigan United on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It reads, "Democracy is sacred and must be defended. It is the courage to lead despite opposition that makes a justice warrior a leader. Justice warriors are made from what they have deep inside them. It's the desire to see justice that fuels their dreams and aspires them to fight for what is right. Each time you stand up for an idea, take to the streets and protest, or raise your voice against injustice, you send a message to the world. Quote, we have just begun to fight." End quote. This was presented to Ms. Veronica Taylor of Pontiac, Michigan. Congratulations to you, and you have the floor.
First of all, I give honor to God and to all of you all. I'm coming to you now not only as your voter protection woman for Michigan, now I cannot say what the GOP is going to do, but the MDP has made leadership, and I am one of your leaders to protect your voters' rights here and work closely with our clerk. We will have them all over the state of Michigan, and each clerk will have a MDP leader to make sure that the votes get did. And as is well, I need you all, each councilman up here, to explain y'all ballot proposal, because a lot of people is calling about the marijuana on there and how to vote. To say that's my job as a voter protection, and I'm proud to say I am a Pontiac homeowner and working hard for our country. And I hope I make you all as proud as I'm proud of you all. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you. Any other recognition of elected officials requested? All right, with that, we are now at agenda address. Pro Tem Carrington, are there any requests for community members that wish to speak to items before they're voted on by the council?
Yes, we have a few. Dr. Deirdre Waterman, items 2 and 9.
The item I want to speak to is the item in which you're talking about the recommendations for the salary increases. And I see our HR people are here to talk about that. Certainly, we knew that our salary levels were lower than industry, and so that you did a market study. But one of the things in terms of as we're getting this report, and I hope, Council, you'll ask this question, because one of the first things you want to know is how much is this going to cost? Okay, there's nothing in here that gives the numbers. And I see that some of the recommended salary increases are as much as $50,000 more, $50,000 more than what the level is that we have right now. Now, that's a kind of big increase if that amount is given in some instances. So I'm sure a lot of our citizens would like to have that kind of increase in their jobs and industries. The other thing I noted is that You've increased the number of employees. This is just for a point of information, but I, at my peak, I worked the whole city with 55 employees. That's increased nearly 4 times now, 400%. That costs something. In addition to the fact that the city charter says that there should be 4 directors who are paid at that level, plus the city clerk. I see now that you have 3 times more, about 12 directors, and those are all in the $132,000 to $160,000 range. So $168,000 range. So it's important to know in terms of prudence. It's nice to give these benefits, but I hope, Council, you will ask the question, because I didn't put it for you here, that you will ask the question, how much is this going to cost? And there is a finite number, because the administration is asking to immediately put these into effect at the 25 percentile. 25 percentile is a finite number, so the finance director could easily calculate what that amount is. So I hope you will ask that in terms of prudence and financial security, as those are questions that you should have administration answer for you.
Thank you, Dr. Water. Mr. Carlton Jones. Items 2 and 1.
Good evening. I want to speak to a couple of items on the agenda, and they are out of the subcommittee reports. And just in general, the economic development and the planning is so important for where our city is right now. And if we can do anything to help tie that together, because as we look at what's really happening in our city needs to really have a master plan in place as we try to move forward. I think it's a great opportunity for us to do that, but we really need to work to put this master plan in place. And I think it'll make you guys, as elected officials, job a lot easier, because what I see clearly is happening is that projects come in, they need special exception, they need variance, and if we don't have a tight, real tight plan, it leaves us open to a lot of indiscretion of how we make decisions that's going to be based for the betterment of our city. And also engagement. As we talk about engagement and talking about really engagement with the community, I want to say that TDC has been selected by EPA to really upbeat community engagement for the whole new infrastructure. So you'll be hearing much more about how we can use this opportunity for community engagement that can help across the board with all of our committees. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes our agenda address. President McGinnis, I'm sorry, Mr. Larry Jasper. I don't see him in. Okay.
All right, we are at number 8. Number 8, is there a motion to adopt the resolution honoring the life and service of Mary Roberson? Is there a second? It's been moved by Councilwoman Rutherford, seconded by Councilman Parker. Ms. Mary Roberson not only was a beloved community member, but she previously worked for the city of Pontiac. And it is our policy that we acknowledge with action of resolution when a current or former city employee passes and we're made aware of it, that we enter into the official record of the city acknowledgement of their life and service. Councilman Parker represents Ms. Roberson presently, and he's very graciously agreed to present the resolution at the funeral services. But she did grow up in District 1, so if you don't object, I'll allow Councilman Rutherford to read this evening's resolution here, so that way you can share in the opportunity. And I would thank Councilwoman James for flagging for us from some of her past colleagues that she was a city employee, because we knew of her passing, but I was not aware that she had put in many decades of work for the city of Pontiac, so I'm grateful that you were able to get that on our radar. Councilwoman Rutherford, you have the floor to read the resolution.
Whereas the city of Pontiac resolution honoring the life and service of Miss Mary Roberson. Whereas the city of Pontiac has been blessed to have many dedicated community members serve in professional capacities to protect and improve the quality of life for all residents. And whereas Miss Mary Roberson was a longtime resident of Pontiac, Michigan, and worked for the city of Pontiac for 26 years in multiple roles, particularly in the Community Development Department, and served as the Pontiac Municipal Employee Association President And whereas the city of Pontiac is better today because of her years of caring service, one of the many positive traits learned from her parents, Reverend Samuel Edwards Sr. and Lily Edwards, and passed on to her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And whereas Miss Robertson passed away on January the 10th, 2024, at the age of 73, which is a tragic loss for her family and our entire community, though her amazing legacy will surely be endured. And now therefore be it resolved that the City of Pontiac City Council, President and Mayor Tim Granville hereby acknowledges the life and service of Miss Mary Robertson and mourns the passing, and further resolve that the Pontiac City Council, the Mayor of Pontiac, and the entire city of Pontiac extends our deepest sympathy to the family, neighbors, and colleagues of Ms. Robertson. Resolve, we celebrate the life and time and impact of Ms. Robertson and her salute in years to her admirable service to the city of Pontiac. Signed January 23rd, 2024 by the Pontiac City Council.
Thank you very much. Are there members of Ms. Roberson's family that are present with us that wish to speak? No requirement or obligation. We want to extend that opportunity. All right. With that, further discussion on the resolution before us.
Oh, I thought somebody was getting up.
Councilwoman James.
Yes, I would just like to say that I knew Mary years ago when she was Miss Mary Gray. And she was definitely a very dynamic person within the city of Pontiac, and she was the lady who was in the know. If you wanted to know what was going on at the city, you would contact Mary Gray. So we are really sorry to see, her loss, and we want to extend our condolences to the family. And I know that they were planning to be here. It may have been that the weather, and I believe her daughter was planning to be here, so it may have been some kind of miscommunication with the weather, but we definitely want the family to know that we are deeply grieved and concerned for them at this time.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, roll call Clerk Doyle on adoption of the resolution honoring the life and service of Mary Roberson.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Now to number 9. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution approving implementation of pay ranges from wage and compensation study for City of Pontiac directors and managers positions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker and seconded by Councilman Goodman. So first, we'll give the administration an opportunity to present the information and make their case before we debate it further. This had been discussed extensively at the subcommittee level of Finance and Personnel, and so it has previously been reviewed and deliberated at that level by the City Council, and now it moves to the City Council as a whole. The City Council voted to authorize and pursue authorize the pursuit of the wage and compensation study for directors and managers. And it is our expectation, and we are eager for that wage and compensation study for the balance of all city employees, even those that would not fall under directors and managers. This was so that way we could tackle it category by category and keep the process moving. Mayor Tim Granville, you have the floor.
Thank you, President McGinnis. You summed that up well. We decided collectively some number of months ago to pursue a wage and compensation study. The reason for that, of course, is to make sure that we are competitive in this very tight and competitive labor market. We want to make sure that we're able to attract and retain the best possible employees to serve the residents of the city. I want to, again, mention, and President McGinnis touched on this, that this is really the first half of the compensation study, which focused on directors and managers. And these are proposed pay ranges for that category of employee. The firm has already started looking at and doing a compensation study for other employees as well, and so we will, in the future, be bringing forward some recommended pay ranges for those employees as well. This is designed to provide flexibility so that we can compete for the best possible employees. I know that a member of the public mentioned that there were various salaries, but I want to be very clear that the numbers mentioned by that member of the public are the very highest range or the very highest pay amount or salary amount in those ranges. So the pay range ranges quite extensively below that as well. And the default position, as that member of the public also mentioned, is to pay people not at the highest range, but rather at the 25th percentile of that range. And certainly provides for flexibility to adjust that or modify that based on the person's experience or qualifications or the competitiveness of the labor market. But we believe that this is a very important proposal to ensure, again, that we're able to compete not just against other municipalities for the best talent and best employees, but also against non-municipalities and the private sector. And I want to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Stevens to talk in greater detail about this.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Council, I will not belabor the point because this has been discussed in great depth with the Council Subcommittee, who did ask that we go ahead and bring this forward. And we do have the two senior members of our HR staff to answer any specific questions that you may have. But just for the sake of the council members who were not in the subcommittee meetings and for the public, I just want to lay some ground points here. The first, as you've already heard, is that we worked through our legal firm Clark Hill and with a advisor, GovHR, to do a wage and compensation study. That wage and compensation study was done by taking all of our job descriptions and having our workers fill out a job questionnaire. In this job questionnaire, what the workers did was they went through what it is that they do and how much autonomy they have and what would happen if they were to make a mistake on their job, how that would ultimately affect the city. A multitude of questions. It was a 9-page questionnaire. At the end of that, a scoring was there was a score that was come about as a result of that. That score then was used to determine which tier or category that job landed in. And those tiers or categories are the pay bands that you see. What we are asking the council to approve today is those pay bands. And then those pay bands were not just plucked out of the air willy-nilly. Those pay bands were come to by looking at our competing organizations. So we looked at other municipalities to see not just by job title, but by job questionnaire and by job description, what the equivalent job would be at another municipality, so that we were making sure that we weren't just saying, oh, we have a clerk, they have a clerk, and therefore our clerks should be paid commensurate with their clerks. No, we said we have a person who is doing this specific job. Who is doing this specific job at other municipalities, and what are their pay ranges? And what we found is that, well, some of what we found is what we already knew. We were going into this at what we would call a median point. Approximately 50% of organizations pay more than us, and approximately 50% of organizations pay less than us. So what we are asking to adopt is a strategy that will move us from that 50% point to about the 60-70% point, which means that somewhere between 30 and 40% of organizations will pay less than us. I'm sorry, will pay more than us. And then, you know, the opposite will be paying less than us. Additionally, what we are stating is that it will be our policy to not try and put people at the very, very bottom of their pay range. The reasoning for that is twofold. One, if you're putting people at the very bottom of the pay range, as the years go by, they can fall out of that pay range, and then we would end up, the next time we do one of these studies, doing large equity adjustments and moving people back into their pay ranges. Instead, we want to start people somewhere inside of the pay range. What we are suggesting is 25%. That way they are solidly in the range, and we should not have the issues with them falling out of the range as time progresses. The mayor already addressed the fact that no one is being suggested to receive a $50,000 increase. These are simply the ranges. I would also like to point out that previously, we did not have a step. To the best of my knowledge, I have not seen a document that established actual pay ranges in the recent time for the city. So this will be establishing those actual pay ranges. And with that, if there are any actual questions that you have more in depth, as I said, we do have our HR team here to answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Discussion. First question I have, when we have creation of new positions, will it be incorporated into the approval of those positions and or their compensation level? They'd be identified what their new band would be. I don't know necessarily that we have new directors or managers that we would be creating in the foreseeable future, but let's say where there wasn't an assistant manager and there is one, that we'd be identifying from the jump where that falls in the scale. Is that the intention? And I'll yield to the mayor or deputy mayor.
Yes, it is. The desire is to make sure that every position at the city has a designated pay band. And so to the extent that in the future new positions are created that are not subject to this study, we will conduct a review of the labor market and the salary for that position and make a determination as to what an appropriate or recommended pay band is for that position and bring that before council as part of the proposal to establish the new position.
I do want to share for the community's benefit, this was done, the study was done by an external firm. This was not an internal review, so to speak. Councilman Parker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Brother President. First, I want to thank the members of the staff, and I may mess up some names, Ms. Melinda Durakovic, and Shannon, I don't know your last name, but I want to thank them for the commitment and dedication they put to putting together this packet. And I think as we talked about it in the subcommittee, it is really a performance-based, job descriptive, qualitative way of evaluating. That will go into place as well. Training and education will take place as well. What we're really trying to do is close up the back door and make sure that people are feeling appreciated, at least salary-wise to a degree, but also addressing some of the outliers that people have in regards to, it may not always be that have to do with wage and salary. It may have to do in dealing with all of those outliers that affect people in wanting to work with Pontiac. And as they are doing that, I certainly want to applaud them for putting together a comprehensive job-based, job descriptive-based, qualitative place that as we move forward and we hire people, we know what they are they know what they're getting into, and they know what the expectations are, and where they fall within the salary range will depend upon their job performance and not so much based on time and service. I think I spoke that right. I hope I did.
Councilman Goodman.
Yeah, I mean, to put it simply, I thank the firm for doing their work because much of council and the city believes in paying people adequately for the work that they're doing. That is how you get good talent. That's how you retain good talent. That's how you keep the city moving forward. And so I am happy that this is in the vein of that we can do everything that we can to make sure that we're, again, bringing in good talent that will continue to improve the city, bring the city forward, especially when we're in a time and age when people need to know what they're dealing with financially before they can make decisions. As a young person, I'm not going to apply for a job that I can't see the salary range for if it doesn't make sense, despite it being, a position that I might want. So, us moving in the direction and, establishing these things and making sure that, people are getting treated fairly while we have the ability to, and as we should, I'm, very excited to see this in front of us.
Pro Tem Carrington, followed by Councilwoman James and Rutherford.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. First, I want to thank the administration and your team for getting this blueprint done, because definitely this helps us make important decisions surround city finances. My question is that I know you stated this was for managers and directors. When would the second part of the study be done for frontline staff?
Great question. So we received the preliminary data for the frontline staff of this just last week, which is why the chart actually goes all the way down to frontline staff as far as the bands, but we have not had an opportunity yet to go over all of those results internally to make sure that people are landing where they need to land and that the bands are correct. So we haven't had a chance to have the give and take back to finalize those, but we should have that in the next week, if not the next 2 weeks, if not next week.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Councilwoman James?
Yeah, my question is, when we reviewed this, I thought we were going to add a column about how many. We have the grades identified, we have the min and the max for those grades, but I thought we had asked if we could add a column that reflected how many city employees were in each grade. But I don't see that here. I'm wondering why we didn't add that.
So this package came out before we were able to make that change, and I thought that we were going to have that change for you today, but with the snafu this morning, we did not have that additional change added for you.
Mayor Bramall?
Yeah, I would note, and it sounds like this is not what you asked for, but some math can add those up, because what is in the packet is each position within each grade. So there are 10 people at the grade of 15, one person at the grade of 17, one person at the grade of 16, 10 people at the grade of 15, 7 people at the grade of 14, and then 8 people at the grade of 13, and 9 people, I believe, at the grade of 12, and 3 people at the grade of 11. So it's there. It's just not summarized in writing what those totals are. But just some math can add those up.
I'd like to propose an amendment. I'd like to propose an amendment. The grade for code enforcement manager is 13, but every other division manager in community development is 14, and there are, I believe, 14 employees that report to the code enforcement manager, and it's a priority of the city council. So I'm welcomed to hear the rationale, but that feels as though it's a misstep and an outlier and doesn't align with the city council. So I would propose an amendment making code enforcement manager grade 14 from 13, if there's a second.
I second it.
It's been moved by McGinnis, seconded by Rutherford, so now we have that amendment before us. Councilman Rutherford, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'm not satisfied. We gave y'all months to get this right, and I'm trying to be calm, but what I'm seeing is a slap in the face for several positions. For example, I like to call stuff out. The economic development manager is a 14. Don't understand why that is, because this person encompasses multiple roles, and in the current situation is actually going to be actively doing something different. So there should have been a different grade for that. Not satisfied. Jack does so much and is paid so little. Don't understand what y'all was thinking. Don't understand why y'all thought this was going to be okay, because just like the mayor, the deputy mayor can make 17, the community development director can make 15. These individuals do multi-roles and yet, to me, are still not compensated. And I don't want history to repeat itself the way it's repeated, so this don't happen again. So those two in particular, which we came to you guys about before with another role, and it still isn't satisfying to me, because y'all still don't get or to me appreciate what those particular two roles actually do. And especially now, what is happening, this needs to be changed, both of them.
So I've moved to the change of the grade for code enforcement manager, so let's debate code enforcement manager. Mayor Grimel, you have the floor.
Yeah, just to try to at least answer the implicit question there, I wasn't as close to this as our human resource staff and as the deputy mayor, but these grades were determined solely by GovHR, is my understanding. Now, if that's inaccurate, we should invite the HR people to the podium so they can address it. But the other dynamic here is that we were instructed or advised by the Finance and Personnel Committee not to take individual job performance into account, but which can come later, but instead to solely look at the position and the job description and the role in terms of setting these bands and these ranges. So that is my understanding. Again, the deputy mayor had some of those conversations. I believe our human resources staff had some as well.
Is the microphone on?
So in a compensation study, which I, as a consultant, you don't put names and, okay.
She has the floor.
They are based on a position. These positions are interviewed. They were interviewed through the outside party on key skills, competencies to do the position itself. And you also have to look at if, let's just say we had a vacancy in a position, what would we need to do to go out and to hire somebody else to refill that position again? So they're basically only reviewed on the titles, the skills to do it. We have a couple positions that, for example, even the new Parks and Recs director, it's not a comparable Parks and Recs director position in other communities neighboring us, because that position will be dealing with construction management, will be dealing with also the senior center. So they literally interviewed every single position, went into what jobs, skills, competencies were required for that position, and they didn't just, and they measured them based on that.
Councilman Rutherford, you have the floor.
So let me try this again. We have a habit in this community of not paying people what is fair. I understand what you're saying, but we're going to lose certain people and have lost certain people because of the frustration that they feel. Part of this wage study was to pay people for what is fair, what is right, what is just. And these two particular roles inadvertently are not just to me. It doesn't make sense to me. And so when we lose more people, how will we justify that? Because, hold on, before you respond, because I know for a fact that in other cities, the economic director makes more than this. And so how did they do this wage study where a person can make this amount who has a skill set, or we're not talking about the person, we're talking about the experience, we're talking about the bandwidth, the wherewithal. How is this justifiable? And then to even go further, how can we justify doing 17 for one, shots out to you, but these other individuals or these people in these roles are on the ground every day and are not fairly compensated. You can't make this make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me.
So
and I'm scared because I've seen it happen. It's happening right now. And I'm trying to figure out what y'all gonna do. Because if we keep losing our greatest assets, how can we as a city function?
So
You want to make a comment? You have the floor, Shannon Hensel.
Sorry.
And introduce yourself.
I'm Shannon Hensel. I'm the HR consultant that's been here with the city now since beginning of fourth quarter last year. So when the compensation bands that are at council today to get approved are just the bands. We blew out and we reviewed in detail with Councilman Parker and Councilman James, and then we blew down into more specific, and that's not what we're sharing. We'd be happy to share it with you. We identified what were the key critical roles in the city and highlighted those in red, and then the new bands allow and give us the ability then to single out individuals and put where they need to be. We're just asking for the ranges. We're not, in general, we're not looking to do individuals at this time. And if we can get the bands approved, then we'll be able, we actually do have a plan in place to look that's competitive, that looked at neighboring cities like Auburn Hills, Troy. We did look at those Bloomfield Hills, Rochester, and we got data back from them on individual roles, and we actually have recommendations individually. we're only asking to put the bands in place right now, and then we'll be able to go back, excuse me, and then look at individuals.
Well,
Mayor Grimal?
well, I think to just clarify that a little bit, we are asking for the approval of the bands tonight. The default position is the 25th percentile in each band. But as I said, based on some other considerations, some people may get paid more than that. The individual adjustments in pay will go into effect immediately. So when Ms. Hensel talks about we're not looking to do individuals right now, what she means is that the performance of individuals will be taken into account later. But both of the individuals you're expressing concern about are going to see under this proposal very large pay increases. So I really want to emphasize that. And if they have concerns about that, the range does give us flexibility to have that conversation with each of them.
All right, again, we are on a specific amendment, changing the grade for code enforcement managers, so we have to keep our conversation to that. So is anyone else talking? I think we can vote on the amendment. I'll just say, I'm looking at it based on the role and the responsibility that's unique to Pontiac. I don't think that many other communities have the fraction of the code enforcement complexity, challenges, or volume that we have. So it's something that would be an outlier or skewed based upon what other Oakland County communities, for that matter. When I'm looking at the other divisions of community development, they are within a particular grade, and this is the outlier. And also, you know, when we look at different department directors and the number of positions that respond to them, their role, and even, for example, the management of the number of vehicles. I mean, it's just the number of responsibilities that the code enforcement manager is given. To me, it feels like that needs to be in the band with all the other division, at bare minimum, the other divisions of the same department. And as the division that has the vast number of responsibilities and staff that report to them. So that's Councilwoman James.
I'm just wondering, though, once we approve the bands, does this automatically lock these positions into those bands? I mean, could you not move an individual into another band? Or would this automatically lock these positions into these bands?
The short answer is, you know, they would be locked into the bands. The longer answer is we can obviously review this and come back to council and make suggestions for movements thereafter.
But I also want to mention that the ranges, the ranges are wide enough that I think management can work within those ranges for each band to make sure that those employees are given a fair, are being paid what they need to be paid.
Councilman Rutherford?
I wish I could believe that. Wish I felt that way. I just don't. So I'm rolling with, can we call for the vote for what he just said? And then I'm going to make another amendment. I just don't trust it. I've seen too much. I've seen things that didn't happen. I've seen people leave here who shouldn't have been leaving. And this is an opportunity for us to get it right with this particular role that has multifacets, and people need to be paid what they deserve. They do. And I just don't trust this, that we're going to come back. We always say we're going to come back, but at what cost? And that's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about whether we're going to come back. I'm worried about at what cost. What happens if the role is replaced with somebody who doesn't even understand the facets that they have to deal with in these particular roles? So I am in support of the grade going from 13 to 14. So again, I'm saying, can we call for the vote?
She's moving to basically end conversation on this amendment. Is there a second? That dies due to a lack of a second. Councilman Parker, you're next on the speaker's list.
Just so we're clear, when the group HR Gov put this together, they looked at job titles, right? And there's a difference between a job, a manager and a director, correct? There's a salary difference between a manager and a director, correct? So basically what we're saying is, as opposed, as we talk, and as we call out names, for all intents and purposes, Mr. McIntyre is classified as a manager, not a director. Are we then saying that we're going to promote him to director so he falls within the same band?
My motion is to have that manager be in the same grade as multiple other managers.
Okay.
Into 14.
I just want to be clear.
Yep, that's the nature of this motion. There, of course, could be future changes or reorganizations, but this is at least.
Right. Because that was one of the questions that we as a subcommittee asked. Based on the scale, do they still fall within the parameters of 25% to 100 percentile? Could we make up the difference of what the local surrounding communities is asking based on the outliers, which I spoke of a few minutes ago? There are some outliers that are unique to what the Pontiac group does than some of the other surrounding areas groups does. So can that outlier be made up, within the confines of the bands and the wage scale that we have in place? Or does that require an additional movement of people to a different job title to be able to do that?
At least for this action, this just does the band or the grade categorization, but that's still a fair future question.
Right.
And I think that's why it's important that this was done. It wasn't saying, okay, if you got the director name after you, everybody gets X. Or if you got the manager name after you, everybody gets Y. Or you get the assistant role, everyone gets Z. Because there's variation based on the different roles as we've organized the city.
Right.
Because in another city, some of our current managers would be directors. You know, they do have different organizational titles that they use.
Right.
Other discussion on the amendment, which is proposing a change of the grade for code enforcement manager from 13 to 14. Hearing no further, Councilman James.
Yeah, I would have some concern about that because I do see other, if we start moving people into other bands, then I would question why we would not want to move purchasing into that band with the huge responsibilities of that position. So, I mean, I am not ready to start moving people out of the bands. I do believe that we have enough flexibility in the min max to be able to accommodate whatever needs to be done. I don't see moving one and leaving the others there. Because I think there are others in that band, if you're going to start moving people into another band, that might not be the only job title that you would want to move.
It's noted and received. In the Community Development Department, there are 4 divisions. So imagine those 4 division heads are sitting around the table with their department director. And 3 out of those 4 are in one band, and 1 is the outlier, is the less than. And the one that is the less than has the most staff, has, in terms of it, is collaborating with the building official, and in those building roles, there's a lot of cross-pollination that happens there. Obviously, it's an operation that is uniquely in Pontiac's scope. I think it has implications if we're saying in these 4 divisions, one is the separate and apart. It's at a less category, meaning it's less seen as less barrier of entry, less sort of prerequisites for the requirements for the role, when that is not the practical application that Pontiac's organization has been doing and will do based on how I've seen the city government play out in the last 2 years. So that's the nature of my concern. Ms. Hensel, you have the floor.
My only other question or concern too I have is, are we moving to go forward with it, with this amendment, moving the one position into the next category up, for clarity's sake? Because of this, if we continue this is going to keep delaying us from moving forward on this as well, if we don't have some kind of, I guess, plan.
The microphone started flashing, so I don't know if, let us know if there starts being some audio issues. But when we're doing discussions at the council table, so the main motion is before us, amendments are considered, and where those amendments pass or fail, we'll still ultimately make a, aim to make a
Thank you.
decision on the main motion. But this is sort of like let's get that detail sorted out, yay or nay, and then go back to the main.
Thank you
Main
for
meeting.
clarifying.
Further discussion on the amendment? Hearing no further discussion on the amendment, speakers list is exhausted. The amendment was to change the code enforcement manager grade from 13 to 14. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Rutherford,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
Okay, that amendment carries. So we're now back to the main motion, and that change is incorporated into the main motion. So what we're looking at are all the grades with that asterisk. That one's been moved. Councilman Rutherford, you have the floor.
I just have a question. So in the department that I mentioned earlier, where the 14 for the manager, does this person is automatically guaranteed the 25% raise, or is it by how you guys review the individual in the role? And I yield to the administration.
Yeah, break that down. The 25th, it's a percentile or a range, so that way we get that right.
Yeah, well, I think it's fair to say that everybody who has been designated a range thus far, all of those positions that have been designated a range thus far, will be paid at least the 25th percentile for that range, if not more. Is that guaranteed in stone for any position hypothetically in the future, like 5 years from now? Not necessarily, but our intention is for those positions that we've discussed, that all of those folks will be paid at least at the 25th percentile. In some cases, they may be paid more.
Deputy Mayor?
Just for a little bit more clarity, because Councilwoman, I heard you say 25% increase, and that is not what we're talking about. What we're saying is if you look at the range and you take the bottom number and the top number and you break it into 4 equal segments, what we're saying is we want to take everybody and take them from the very bare minimum bottom and move them up to that first chunk, that first 25th percentile.
And a follow-up, would there be any, so if you're looking at any of these positions right now, any of the grades, were any of the current compensation levels below the current minimum range? So there are
Yes.
many positions that were already outside of that
Yeah.
range at, coming in at an anemic level, if you will.
Yes.
Mayor? and then-
Well, that's a really good point, and I should be very careful because at least in some of most of the positions, almost all of the positions perhaps, are currently paid below the minimum range. There are 1 or 2 positions where that's not the case, and I should be careful because there are 1 or 2 positions where they are actually paid higher than the maximum range, and so they're going to maintain their existing salary. We're not looking to cut any person's pay. So I do just want to be clear about that. There are 1 or 2 positions that are actually being paid not more than the maximum range, but more than the 25 percentile range, just to be clear.
Councilman Parker?
Thank you, Brother President. And as the subcommittee looked at, we also recognize that the 25 percentile was the minimum, but we also recognize that based on the intricacies of the job itself, as it applies to Pontiac and what the surrounding areas are paying them, some of them are not going to be moved sometime to the 50th or the 75th percentile, as opposed to starting at the 25th percentile, because that is based on job requirements and the specific tasks that we ask them to do in regards to the duties here at this city. I believe that's how that went. And so, although when you look at the basic range and what we have here, those are minimum and maximums. There are obviously there's some differences between the minimum and the maximum that may bring people to the level to where a lot of the surrounding communities are at in salary requirements. But our jobs, some of those jobs for us as Pontiac is unique. And whereas there may be some things that are happening in Rochester, Auburn Hills that's exclusive to Auburn Hills and Rochester, we may have a hybrid job description that encompasses a little bit of both. And so I believe the ladies tried to take that into consideration as they worked out the percentiles and decided that trying to get everybody at least to where they're supposed to be, and then work from there based on what we're asking them to do. I think that's what I heard when I was there.
Councilwoman Rutherford?
This is a question to HR. Are all the current managers paid at the accurate salary level or below?
Below.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty. So hypothetically, let's say I was making $93,000 a year. I am a manager here, and I got the 25%. It would happen automatically for them if they were graded, because he said up to. I'm just trying to see, is that going to, like, how you guys are going to differentiate that? So if you can answer that on the record, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, we were looking to move everybody up to actually a little above the 25th percentile this first for all the directors.
No, not directors, the managers.
They automatically will also go up to the 25th percentile unless they were in a slot that maybe required them to go a little bit higher.
All right, thank you.
And that higher point, I think that's especially critical when we have vacancies now or in the future. So this range empowers the administration to make sure that we can be competitive when it's most crucial, right? When there's an absence, lacking a vacancy. Yes, Madam, you have the floor.
We have a position right now that we haven't been able to hire for because we're not able to pay them what competitive market is right now, and so it still sits vacant at a very critical role, which would be included in this as well.
Further discussion on the floor? Hearing no further discussion. Speakers, this is exhausted. What we have before us is the resolution approving implementation of pay ranges from wage and compensation study for City of Pontiac directors and managers positions. As amended, the one amendment has been incorporated, so that's into the guts. I'll ask of the administration that as this is implemented, should it be favorably decided, provide updates not only to finance and personnel, but the full city council about what the dollar and cent ramifications of that are. We know that that'll sort of scale up, and we'll be looking at it in the coming months when it's baked into our fiscal year, proposed budget. But since it'll be a period of transition, we'll want to know what the impact is. Because many of these positions were at times not filled, or of course being compensated at lower levels, this would not be a strain upon the current fiscal year budget cycle. But we will debate any budget amendments should they be necessary if there are certain, department pay and compensation and benefits that need to be adjusted, and that will be transparent to the community what any implications of that are. Hearing no further discussion. Speakers list exhausted. Roll call, Clerk Doyle, on adoption of the resolution approving implementation of pay ranges from wage and compensation study for City of Pontiac directors and managers positions.
Yes.
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 Yes. That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. And to Melinda and Shannon, to use your informal names, thank you for being here on an otherwise dreary weather night. I know you may have considered that there wouldn't have been a city council meeting, so thank you very much for going above and beyond. And we know how Herculean you have been working not only on this, but on many other functions. And the reason why we are so dialed in is because of just how crucial it is. So thank you for helping move this crucial matter forward. All right. We are now at number 10. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the policy and guidelines for granting a hardship exemption for payment of property taxes? It's been moved by Councilman Goodman, seconded by Councilman Parker. That is now before us. This is an annual task, and again, To the city treasurer and family, thank you for being here on a night that you may not have anticipated that it would still be happening. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Mayor Grimley, you have the floor.
Thank you, President McGinnis. We want to make sure that we're continuing to be sensitive to those property owners, those homeowners who really do struggle financially and due to their economic income circumstances can't afford to pay taxes. And so a year or so ago, we made an adjustment to try to make our hardship exemption a little more flexible so that we could broaden the number of people who could benefit from it. We want to, again, build some additional flexibility into our hardship exemptions, and I'll allow Treasurer Prater to get into, see, you're a bad influence, President McGinnis, calling people by their first names. But I want to allow Treasurer Prater to get into all of the details about this. But our current arrangement has hardship exemptions that allow for 25%, 50%, and 100% exemption. This would add a 75% exemption so that we have a little more flexibility to accommodate folks who otherwise may only qualify for a 50% exemption. This would allow us to bump that up in certain circumstances to a 75% exemption, is my understanding. And so take it away, Treasurer Prater.
Good evening, everyone, City Council, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City of Pontiac residents. I am Portia Prater, City Treasurer. And yes, Mayor, you are correct that that new adjustment, because everything else is kind of the same as we kept it last year, but the new adjustment is the 75% poverty exemption that is now available through the state, and we're just keeping things along, conforming to the state guidelines. So the state has approved a 75% poverty exemption, and so I am requesting that City Council approve a 75% exemption for City of Pontiac residents seeking a poverty exemption in taxes.
So to clarify, the state has expanded what is the cap, what's sort of the max?
That is correct.
And the city of Pontiac is meeting that newfound opportunity by going for the maximum possible.
That is correct. Well, they have expanded to include not only 25, 50, and 100%, they expanded the range, so to include a 75% exemption as well. So the max will be 100%, which is already approved, but we're just approving the 75% that is new this year.
Thank you. And is this administered in the city treasurer's office? If individuals were interested, should they be contacting the Pontiac City Treasurer?
No, they will be contacting equalization, and that request will go before a board of review.
Okay, so if anyone is hearing this and thinking, I didn't know, the city of Pontiac has poverty exemptions if you are struggling to pay your property taxes. And it could be, if we adopt this tonight, it could be up to 25%, 50%, now 75%, and 100%, depending on essentially how dire the situation is. Is that fair?
That is fair.
And that's decided by some of your neighbors. The Board of Review hears those cases and see, does this apply? Is that a fair way to summarize it?
That is correct.
So that is an opportunity to Pontiac residents that are facing hardship should the city council vote, and I anticipate we would. We do this every year because we want our neighbors to stay in their homes regardless of if there is some temporary hardship or if there's a change in circumstance. We don't want the property tax burden to be what leads to someone being ousted from their home.
That is correct.
Any further discussion on the motion before us? Okay. Speakers list exhausted. Roll call and adoption of the resolution to approve the policy and guidelines for granting a hardship exemption from payment of property taxes. Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
5 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We're now at, and thank you again for being there. And do you want to introduce your friend?
My daughter, Catalea. She is here with me because she didn't have school today.
Your mom is treasurer of the most amazing city in the world. That's no small feat. So thank you for sharing her with all the citizens of Pontiac, helping improve our lives. All right, we are now at public comment. Pro Tem Carrington, opportunity for our neighbors to speak on anything that they want to bring to the community.
Yes, Mr. Carlton Jones.
Yes, it's always interesting to get a chance to have a little feedback. At the same time, we want to talk about something else. But I just want to share that we've been working in this workforce development space for a while. And I want to share that one of the most important things we found out in this era time when talent is so hard to find, the salary is important, but it's not as important as getting people on a career track that they start feeling passionate about what they're doing. And if we're going to be truly about retaining good talent, we have to add that dimension, because when you get to a certain level of income, that income doesn't make as much a difference as the impact that you feel you're making wherever you are engaged. So let's just make sure that we don't necessarily going to attract the best talent just because of dollar figure. So I wanted to share that from the discussion I heard today. And I know it's a difficult decision, but once again, it's all how we plan and look at how we propose things to people coming to our city. First thing I want to say is I want to thank the county executive for putting this SAVE program on the table. I don't know how many people have heard about it, but the SAVE program is an excellent program that's coming from COVID dollars to help people with economics. You can put in something that's energy saving, and it's going to save you dollars and cents. TDC has taken on community engagement. If you need help, community, if you need help, call me personally. I'm taking it on personally to try to help as many people get involved with that opportunity that the county has right now. You can call me at 313-585-9950. It's first come, first served, but it's an opportunity that they got $5 million on the table for residents in the county of Oakland to take advantage of energy saving opportunities. It's up our alley of what we've chose to really target when we're talking about clean energy. So any residents who want to participate in that and they need help, give me a call. I'm willing to help them. 313-585-9950. The other thing I want to talk about is the fact that we have now targeted, we're going to really work at the senior community and also the faith-based community. We want to reach out to see how we can be more engaging so they can understand how that impact of workforce development can help families, even be not them, but help their kids and grandkids in the senior community. And we believe the faith-based community, the churches, truly can engage with workforce development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Dr. Deidre Waterman.
And again, that program he mentioned is called Oakland Saves. Oakland Saves just opened January 22nd. First come, first served. Thank you for emphasizing that.
Yes, there are 3 tiers to that program. The 3rd tier is already taken up, I understand. So the first 2 tiers, if that's the same one you're talking about, for the homeowners grants, but that is something that is on the website. So I think that is, people are eligible, they should look into that. Speaking of which, we have here in the city of the ARPA Small Business Homeowners Grant Fund that was supposed to be announced last week on the 12th. And here it is. Has anybody heard anything about it? Is that late again? And we know the fiasco that occurred when the homeowners grants were supposed to open up under ARPA, and hundreds of people can't even get an application still. So I hope this isn't the same thing. Mention of which, this is under community development, and as you're talking about giving raises, Deborah Younger seems to be doing all the work. Where is the economic development director and doing this? And what's going on with that? But at any rate, you talked about the salary raises, and those are well and good. But once again, I'm astounded that nobody has asked or knows. The administration should know. The finance director will know if you just ask him. But how much this cost? Financially prudent, it would seem like you'd want to know what cost this is to the city, particularly because of the fact that with the spending and the increases that have been going on in spending, that the structural deficit is increasing. So you're kind of spending through that $25 million surplus that I left. So hopefully that can still be answered. That shouldn't be something that's not transparent. And certainly in a city in which you're trying to be financially prudent and also financially responsible, you should know whether this is going to cost you hundreds of thousands or a couple of million, or how that fits in with the budget. So I hope somebody will get that information. Knowing that you're going to immediately, and they want this done immediately, so immediately, tomorrow morning, you're going to increase everybody to the 25th percentile. That's a finite number. And your finance director should be able to do a few little figures and donations. He can tell you exactly what that cost is and that how that fits into the budget. So, any rate, I'm going to stop it with that. I did notice that you took off the closed session from the agenda, and I'll speak more about that in another time. But we've got a referendum coming up February 27th about recreational marijuana. And when we had the last referendum on everybody was talking about, the clerk was telling us exactly what it was about. This time, everybody's real quiet. So I just wonder why that's being kept under wraps and what the people are voting on. Why don't we tell them what's actually going on?
Thank you, Dr. Waterman. Ms. Pastor Kathy Desiree.
I mostly have a bunch of questions tonight. Number one, where is the park where the scoreboard needs to be, and do we have an estimate of how much it will cost? Number two, what is the status of the master plan? And are we making any headway with that? We have a tendency in church to do what we call church speak, and people that are not integrated into the church don't have a clue what we're talking about. That happened here tonight, and it happens occasionally when we're talking about the front line for hiring people or changing their salaries. You need to delineate some of what we're talking about for the average citizen when they know what you're talking about is money, but they don't know who the front line is, or the differentiation between the director and the manager, and that varies from company to company and place to place, and we need to know how you're delineating that. I'll skip that one, and I'll just go to, it can't cost more than $150 to fix the 2 or 3 broken blinds. Could we please? It's driving me crazy. Everybody that I talk to says, can they not afford to fix the blinds? Yes, we can afford to fix the blinds. There must be a reason why we're not, but it needs to be told to the public.
Thank you. Ms. Darlene Clark.
Good afternoon. First, I want to address the mayor of Pontiac for the people to understand and to hear that this has been brought to my attention. I brought it to your council's attention last week, so now, Mayor, I can talk to you about this. 2 weeks ago, you said that I was offending or knocking a person when they're down. Now, when the taxpayer is paying for a person to sit in those seats, questions will be asked when they're not in the seats. Are you trying to say that being transparency, we don't have the right to ask that question? And if we ask the question, we are insulting you, or are we insulting the council? Or are you, Mayor, insulting the people, telling us we have not that right to ask the question? Secondly, I was just text a question for me to ask the council. The question is, wasn't it put into the budget last year? They're talking about the pay increase. Wouldn't that require an increase in the budget, and where's the money coming from? The third question, why not wait until the budget is done for the current fiscal year for 24 to incorporate wage increase? Do you have the surplus in the general fund or not? Is there any residents can retrieve a copy of the general fund on the city website? These questions come before you though insulting they may seem to the administration, the people needs to know. The people are the taxpayers. You allow business to come in here and they're getting tax breaks, so that falls onto the residents. Does that increase property taxes or their taxes? With all the clarity and being transparency in talking about increases, not to say that they do not deserve it, but because the city of Pontiac is no comparison in the wages from Rochester to Birmingham to West Bloomfield, does not compete. So now with the 35% homeowners that's left here that covers that budget, where is it coming from? Explain to the taxpayers.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. President McGinnis, that concludes public comment.
All right, we are at public communications. The City Council wanted to share that Oakland University and their Center for Public Humanities presents the Pontiac Oral History Archive, a presentation on that on Thursday, January 25th at 12 p.m. at the Kresge Library in the Nyberg Room on Oakland University's campus. The next District 4 Community Council meeting is Thursday, January 25th at 6 p.m., held at New Mount Moriah International Church, 313 East Walton. For more information, contact Pontiac City Councilwoman Kathleen James. Also on Thursday, January 25th, Solitary Shorts, a series of short stories about solitary confinement and humane solutions. That's screenings is at Pontiac's Little Art Theater. That starts at 7 p.m. The Little Arts Theater, or the Platt, is at 47 North Saginaw Street in downtown Pontiac. Notre Dame Prep, the parochial school located in the city of Pontiac, they're presenting Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Jr. on Friday, January 26th at 7, and Saturday, January 27th at 3 and 7 p.m. That's at the Strand Theater, 12 North Saginaw Street in downtown Pontiac. And the next District 1 monthly meeting is Saturday, January 27th, 2024, from 3 to 5 p.m., held at the Alley Cat, 31 North Saginaw Street in downtown Pontiac. For more information, contact Pontiac City Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford. Additional community events in the coming months are on the printed agenda or online on the City Council agenda on the city's website. Mayor Grimo, Mayor's Communications.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank our Youth Recreation Manager as well as our Parks and Recreation Director for a really fantastic winter festival that was held here this past Saturday. It was cold outside, but we still had a really great turnout and a lot of fun events. Many of you may have been to the previous year's Winter Festival. This was the second annual Winter Festival. And just like we did in the first year, we had free ice skating, we had free rides on the Polar Express, we had s'mores and hot chocolate, we had a video game truck, all free of charge to the community. So it was a really great opportunity for families to come out and have fun. And so I really, again, want to thank all the staff. And it wasn't just the leaders of those departments and divisions, but we had a lot of staff helping out in supporting roles. So I want to thank everybody for making that such a great success. Also, I want to remind people, speaking of the Youth Recreation Division, that we have a lot of great winter programs that have gotten underway. These range from sports and athletics to baking classes, to singing, to mentorship opportunities, robotics, tutoring, 3D printing, a band, digital content classes. So we've got a lot of opportunities no matter what your young person, your son or daughter, grandson or granddaughter, niece or nephew is into. We encourage you to get them enrolled in some of these great opportunities that are free of charge. You can do so either by calling 248-758-3037 or by visiting PontiacRecreation.recdesk, that's R-E-C desk.com. In a similar vein, we've got a couple of additional Pontiac Youth Recreation events coming up. On February 10th, which is a Saturday, we've got the annual Daddy-Daughter Dance. And then the following month, on March 23rd, we have the second annual Spring Bash and Egg Hunt, also on a Saturday. So we encourage folks to come out to those events. I also want to thank Angela Powell as well as Councilman Mikhail Goodman for organizing a series of tenant Rights Town Hall meetings. I also want to thank our communications director, Paula Bridges, and her team for covering those events. We had the first one this past Saturday, January 20th, at the Bowen Center, which was terrific. We had good turnout. We had Jack McIntyre there, our code enforcement manager, as well as Clarence, his assistant code enforcement manager. We had a city attorney there. I want to thank all of them for taking time out of their Saturday to be there. But we also had a lot of nonprofit groups like the Community Housing Network and other tenants' rights organizations in attendance. If you weren't able to make the Saturday event, the good news is we have 2 additional events coming up. The next one will be Monday, January 29th. That will also be at the Bowen Center from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. in the evening. So come on out to the Bowen Center this coming Monday, January 29th, to learn about tenants' rights. Again, 5:30 to 7 p.m., not 7:30, 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Bowen Center. And then the last in this series will be on Thursday, February 1st, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., right here in the Pontiac City Hall City Council chambers. And finally, I want to again encourage residents to apply for job openings, both here with the city proper as well as at the 50th District Court. We have a lot of open positions. You can find them by going online on the city's website or on the district court's website. In terms of the city positions, we have building maintenance foreman, building maintenance laborer, building technician, chief assistant clerk, code enforcement officer, events coordinator, grant accountant, public works director's assistant, public works foreman, public works laborer 1, public works laborer 2, and youth recreation instructor. And at the court, they have a full-time court officer position, a full-time court clerk position, and a part-time court magistrate. So please, if you're interested in any of those positions or others, because that is not an exhaustive list, there are other open positions as well, please check out the websites and put in an application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I want to commend the communications department because there were many news stories generated about tenants' rights and getting the information out. I saw a lot of news coverage regarding that, so that was yielded results. The city clerk's office, your communications.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to remind the citizens that we are still looking for Election Day inspectors for the presidential primary, which will be on February 27th, 2024. Please contact Mary Castro in the clerk's office at 248-758-3008, 758-3008 for more information. Also, absentee ballots are now available in the clerk's office. You can come and vote in person. We are open from 8:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Thank you.
Election Day inspectors, is that a paid gig?
Yes, it is.
A paid gig?
All right, it's a paid gig. We're looking for, the polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m., but workers will actually work from 6 a.m. to, on average, 9 p.m. Some will work longer than that, but they'll be compensated for that. And next week, I'll make sure that I have all the ranges available for the public to know.
Thank you for that. A paying gig. Let the word go forth. You could be an election inspector and help advance the democratic process in the city of Pontiac and be paid for it. Clerk Doyle, thank you for making the time to come when otherwise the clerk's offices were closed earlier today. Thank you for helping facilitate the democratic process right here. All right, closing comments. Mayor Grimo, you have the floor.
Thank you. I want to try to answer some of the questions that were asked this evening. The park that needs the scoreboard is Bodette Park, the Mill Dam, and we do not yet have a cost because we need to go through a bidding process for that, I imagine. I think that'll certainly exceed, I don't know this for a fact, but I imagine it will exceed our minimum requirements to go out to competitive bids. So we don't know yet the cost associated with that. But we're just getting the ball rolling in terms of going through the purchasing process to try to potentially acquire a new scoreboard. In terms of a permanent scoreboard. In terms of a temporary scoreboard, I also don't know the answer to that, but that may be low enough that we can go out and get several quotes and satisfy the competitive process that way as opposed to an RFP or a formal competitive bid. But we still have some homework to do in that regard. Secondly, the master plan work has begun. We're in the very early stages of that. As we've discussed in the past, that is going to be a very lengthy process to comprehensively update the master plan. It can easily take 9 months or 12 months to actually finish that process. It is critically important. I completely agree with the public comment that was made about just how essential it is, because it really is a blueprint for zoning changes, for other modifications. And while we can't bring everything to a screeching halt until that update is finished, we want to make sure that that update is done as expeditiously as possible. We also, of course, want to make sure it's done right, but there's some real urgency here in getting that done. I don't think there's any formal or technical definition to the term frontline. I think it was used informally by people this evening. When they referred to frontline employees, I think they just meant people other than directors and managers. And so they just are referring to everyone else who provides services to the community, whether they're DPW workers, whether they're code enforcement officers, whether they are clerks essentially here at City Hall. It was just an informal term. So there's no actual technical misunderstanding. I think they were just using it as shorthand to refer to everybody else who we didn't adopt pay bans for this evening. In a similar vein, in terms of directors and managers, the nomenclature here at City Hall is essentially that directors are in charge of departments. Managers work underneath directors, and managers are in charge of divisions within each department. And that's all I've got, President McGinnis.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Stevens.
I just want to thank Alicia Stevens for sharing me with City Council tonight. Tonight is her birthday, so happy birthday, Alicia.
Yes.
And that is her
cool.
text.
Happy birthday to Alicia Stevens, also known as the other half to Deputy Mayor Stevens, the light of his life, the mother of his children. All right, Clerk Doyle, any closing comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We have received over 2,200 absentee ballot applications, and we have mailed those 2,200 absentee voters their ballots. I know people have started receiving their ballots. I want to inform you can return your ballot by a number of different ways. You can return it by mail. Postage is now covered by the state, so you no longer have to put a stamp on your ballot. Just sign, seal your ballot. You can drop it in a mailbox. You can return it directly to the clerk's office, or you can return it to one of our 4 drop boxes. All of our drop boxes are under 24-hour video surveillance. The new state law requires that. We have a drop box right outside here at City Hall, so you can just drive right up to it. It's right by the mailbox. You can drop your ballot off there. You can drop it off is the drop box at the Bowen Center, which is located at 52 Bagley. There's a drop box at Ruth Peterson Center, 990 Joslin. And then there's a drop box at Walt Whitman Elementary, 125 West Mount Calm. Again, all the drop boxes are safe under video or surveillance, and we do check those drop boxes. And you can actually track your ballot as well, too. I don't have the website with me, but is actually on your envelope. It tells you that you can track your ballot. So when you drop your ballot into the drop box, you can see when we receive your ballot, because as soon as we collect the ballots out the drop boxes or we get them in the mail, we actually receive them in, and it will show on the website that your ballot has been received. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Now to City Council closing comments. Anyone want to go first? Councilman Rutherford.
If you don't like something, change it. If you cannot change it, change your attitude. That was said by Maya Angelou. Change is so necessary to move the city forward. We have to change how we give out information and how we give out misinformation. We have to change on how we receive things and also how we hear things. One of the things that I want to change is the narrative of people painting the picture that we don't have things in place to move the city forward. change takes time. So earlier today, there was a talk about the home repair program. There's about 300 people that have applied for it. I know an individual in my district, she's number 162, and she's asking for a follow-up. So I could easily say something negative or be combative, or I could say, you know what, I'm going to ask the mayor, which I'm doing right now, number 162, Sarah Ragland, would like a phone call from the administration to tell her where she at in her home repair because she said y'all ain't called her back. That's how you change the narrative. It's how you respond. Number two, on Monday at 8:30 in the morning, I got a text from Dave Woodward. Me and Dave Woodward were talking about I just became a homeowner. I signed my papers on Thursday, so I'm officially a homeowner and I pay taxes. Praise God, for whom all blessings flow. He said, Melanie, there's a program called Oakland Saves. I need you to get on there because you can qualify for $5,000 to get your house repaired. I applied at 8:46. I'm looking at it right now. They had $4.8 million so far. $2,461,309.38 has been committed. In Tier 1, it has $1,852,532.52 that is left. In Tier 2, it has, making sure, committed $313,841.88, but it has left $536,158.12. And Tier 3 has not even started yet. That's information. You can go on MichiganSaves.org, Oakland Saves, and see that information adequately right now. Why am I saying this? It's a simple application. It took me 5 minutes to do it. Did it at 8:30. Got a call back at 8:46 that night and got qualified. Put up the post. It's been shared 101 times. And also, 584 people from the city of Pontiac have already been served. This is information that we can use. This is how we change the narrative. We have to give out what we know and not hold everything in for ourselves because we want everybody to change. Thirdly, which is most importantly, on Saturday, if you have never been to a District 1 meeting, you need to be at this meeting because the speakers that I have in line is none other than the mayor himself, Mayor Tim Grimer, so he can paint the vision. I bring up the word vision because Sunday at church, because I go to Trinity Baptist Church where John Tobert is my pastor, they passed off this thing called Vision 2024. Now, this is an overwhelming idea of what we want to see happens in the church. I said, I wonder if Tim and the administration can do a Vision 2024 for the city of Pontiac. How they broke it down is so you can see where all the money resides, what every department is doing, how we can do better, and how we can be the change agents. So I want us to have a vision for 2024, and that's why at the District 1 meeting on Saturday from 3 to 5 at the Alley Cat, you will hear the vision and the plan from the man himself, Tim Grimer. You will also hear where the money resides from Deborah Younger, and you will also hear what is going on in code enforcement from Jack McIntyre. I want to be a change agent. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. I don't want to get pulled into negative conversations, and transparency isn't negative per se, it's just the way that it's being perceived. You have to understand that everything we say has a consequence. And if you're trying to manifest this city to be better, do better, and to sound better, we have to talk better about this city. Yes, there are 35, now 36%, because I'm 36% of Pontiac are homeowners. But it changed because I got tired of people saying, you're a renter, you're a renter, you're a renter. So now, boo-boo, I am a homeowner. So I can talk the talk because I pay taxes, because I heard the change and I made the decision and it came upon me. Last but certainly not least, we need to keep continually to lift our community up and pray for everyone, because everybody is one paycheck, one conversation, and one cuts out away from losing everything they have. And so instead of us being the ones that are causing division and strife, we need to be the change agent we say that we want to be. God bless you and keep you. Make sure you have your vision. Make sure you be at District 1 meeting from 3 to 5 at the Alley Cat. And I'm Councilwoman Rutherford, and it's a pleasure to serve you. Good evening.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Councilman Parker it is.
I didn't volunteer. Thank you, Brother President. And just want to remind all of District 5 that our CDC meeting will be February 8th, 6 p.m. down in the Lions Den in City Hall. I would ask that you would attend. We have the mayor, deputy mayor, and other directors and representatives from the citywide that comes. And most of the time, they're disappointed because there's only 2 or 3 of us there to hear the information. So I would strongly ask that if we've been having this meeting since the day I took office in the same place, which is well over 2 years. I would certainly ask those who make this, our agenda up, that it will be included in the agenda, because it's been the same time every for the last 2 years. It's always been the second Thursday of every month at 6 p.m. in the Lions Den. I would ask those who are in District 5, would you please come, because there are significant issues that are discussed at that meeting, one of which was we talked about the updated, and I want to thank each and every member who came out from District 5 and beyond for the Contours investigative meeting that was held yesterday. We thought we would do an investigative meeting before all the other meetings so that you would have some idea, because actually the owner wanted to get a feel for the pulse of the community before he went down the road of the other things that need to be approved. So I want to thank the 20 people who came, plus the managers of the organization that came to hear what they were anticipating doing. I want to thank the members of the administration who came to hear what they was going to be doing. And I want to thank also the residents who came and shared their concerns about what they was going to be doing, because that's how you affect change. You get the information from the people and let the owners decide. I want to thank the owner for showing up, because it's sometimes rare that the owner does show up, but he showed up and had, I consider, a very positive meeting. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department and all the volunteers who volunteered for the warming centers that was open, particularly the churches that was open during the cold spell. Certainly it was a gargantuan, significant effort that we undertook to open up the warming centers, and I want to thank all the volunteers who volunteered. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department who patrolled the streets in the cities, and I remember getting calls at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning as I manned one of the warming centers to try to bring people by. And by and large, some of them, when they asked the person they was trying to get, said, I don't want to be in a warming center. And so we need to be aware of that sometimes, that some of these people don't want to be where we want to put them and try to keep them warm. Not that I'm sure they have a right to say that. I just don't know how we handle it when they do say that, particularly in extreme colds as it was last week. I want to thank, I want to just mention to those who applied for Oakland Save. I'm a homeowner, been a homeowner since the day I moved to the city as a pastor, which is the last 13 years. I am a homeowner, I pay taxes, but I also know that I stay in a division that has an HOA, and so you want to make sure that you read your HOA constitution and bylaws to see how that applies to energy savings, things like solar panels and those things, because sometimes they do have some restrictions into that process. I know, because I stay in a HOA that has some restrictions to that process. And I wanted to thank, again, Judge Monique Sharp for inviting me to her investiture celebration. It was a marvelous time, and I had me a good time over there, and there was a lot of people from Pontiac who came down, and I just want to thank her and just say congratulations to her, that her work was not in vain, and she has moved on and upward, and say thank you. I believe that is all of my notes that I took. And so with that, I'll say good evening, District 5.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Kathleen James.
Yes, nobody wants to follow Melanie Rutherford because she is an award-winning Grammy performer. But anyway. We are planning we being District 4, planning our first District Council meeting of the year this coming Thursday, and we will be watching the weather. Hopefully, we will not have to cancel it. But right now, we're still on for Thursday night at 6 o'clock at the New Mount Moriah International Church. Our president, Mike McGinnis, will be our guest speaker, and we are going to be talking about the community projects. As you know, every district has a certain amount of money that they can use to better their community. So I want District 4 residents to come out. Let's talk about what we can do to improve our community with these funds. And we're also going to have our community policing officers there to talk about what the next generation looks like for neighborhood safety, neighborhood safety groups. That we used to have all of these groups in the city to watch. We call them neighborhood watch groups. There are not that many of them around now. In fact, I don't know of any that are still operating. But we need to talk about, what the next generation of neighborhood watch really looks like, and to talk about is there anything that we can do, from the city's perspective to support neighborhoods, specific neighborhoods who want to do things to make their neighborhood safer. So we're going to have some really good conversations. We're going to have some good food. So we hope to see everyone there. Everyone's welcome, particularly District 4. We'd like to get District 4 residents out, but everyone is welcome. Again, at New Mount Moriah International Church, 313 Walton Boulevard, right across from the Dollar Tree store that's there. And we'll see you at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. City Council President Pro Tem William A. Carrington.
Thank you, President McGinnis. My name is William Carrington, District 6. Our district meeting is Thursday, February the 22nd at 5 to 6:30 p.m. at the Ruth Peterson Senior Center. So please come out, learn some of the updates happening in the 6th District. I won't echo all what each council person said, but I definitely agree to everything that was said tonight. Change was talked about, meaning that, we have to be the change we want to see in our community, all right? It's imperative that we start moving that needle ourselves. And I believe that it starts on your street, on your block, in your neighborhood, and teach one, reach one. And that actually moves the pendulum in this city. This city has come a long way in the last 13 years that I've been here and what I've seen. So I'm looking forward to City of Pontiac being the city that we looked to when the Lions was here and all the resources was coming through this city. I was a youngster that drove up from Flint, and Harrington Hills and the Knolls looked like movie stars staying from where I grew up at an early age in the city of Flint. So we definitely working on trying to move that city back to that point where we can all be proud of what's happening in this city. I had a great time this weekend. Kudos to the Recreation Department. Winterfest was fabulous, like always. It was cold, but it was good to see our youngsters in this city and their families out enjoying the cold but beautiful festival that we continue to have each year. I'm looking for ideas from the 6th District for district projects. Again, I want your ideas. I do not want to just spend the money on things that I think is necessary for the District 6. I really want input from the community. So please email me, call me, text me. Let's talk about some things that's coming in District 6. And good night.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Mike
Point of
McGinnis.
information, President, if I could, forgive me, but Deputy Mayor Stevens texted me and asked me to mention to folks that it is a little slippery outside, unlike when we came here, and just wanted to be a little cautious. Forgive me, President, but I wasn't sure if I'd have another opportunity since we may adjourn quickly after you speak. Forgive me. Thanks.
Okay. So for those that are physically here, please be cautious and gingerly as we depart. And if we find any salt, we'll resalt if we have any buckets hiding around. Good evening. I'm Mike McGinnis for District 7. To the question about the window treatments, so you may have noticed there's some Venetian blinds that could be 20 years old, could be 30 years old, could be 40 years old, but literally the tape is no longer able to, some of the loops have busted off, so it's about trying to just duct tape together literally, but we already have our city council staff researching new window treatments so that way it could work well visually. Not every city meeting has a giant window behind it, which is a pro and can be a con. You can tell over the decades they were probably dealing with, sunlight coming in, hitting people in the face, et cetera, depending on the time of year. So something we got to work on, but it is actively being pursued by city council staff, and the administration has already given, Public Works has said, okay in terms of us making the change. So we've gotten the ball rolling on that. You heard from District 7 resident Veronica Taylor about her award that she was received. Congratulations again. Thank you for bringing that so we could see it. I really want to thank everyone who came tonight because it's a challenge, and it was a struggle about whether we should go forward with it. But I'm grateful we did because we got a lot of time-sensitive things done, and that means this is 2 hours that we aren't going to add on to next Tuesday's city council meeting, which of course the tasks keep coming. On a personal note, it's not my birthday yet, but I'm just on the cusp of 40 years old. And on Sunday, I had my 40th birthday celebration. And I want to thank many of my neighbors and community members came out. I timed it intentionally to be with the 150th anniversary celebration of Oakland County's Historical Society. It's when in downtown Pontiac, the Historical Society first met in 1874. It was January 21st. So we've come a long way as a historical society. We've come a long way as the community. And I'm glad I've come at least 40 years and still kicking.
And when is your actual birthday?
February 1st. So it'll be the date of the final tenants. So we've got still another city council meeting before there. All right. With that, I will put on the agenda, yes, the February 8th. Thanks for flagging that. So that way I get the District's 5 meeting in there as well. And again, thank you everyone and staff specifically for being here, going above and beyond when City Hall was closed otherwise. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Moved
moved.
by Carrington. Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Pro Tem Carrington. Hearing no discussion, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We stand adjourned at just after 8 p.m., 8:05 p.m. So it was a 2-hour affair.